Call the meeting to order. Will you please rise? You gonna get prayer? Nick, you gonna get prayer?
Sure. Father, we lift you up today and we just praise you and thank you for your grace and mercy upon each of us. Grant wisdom this day, Father, as we deal with an issue that's somewhat old, but yet is still in the forefront of our mind to thinking, let us do right by the taxpayers, Father. And we just ask your grace and mercy and wisdom in handling these matters. For we ask it in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got some talking to do?
I'd like to welcome everybody this morning to the jail meeting discussion. Thanks for the council members coming today. Commissioner Rist here. Got Ella Vadas, architects, Jeff Peters, BW, sheriff back here in the corner, jail commander, auditor, newspaper. Today we're going to listen to Dan Zerner. He's from Garmon Construction. He's been involved with the county for 8, 10, 12 years, off and on some different projects. He's going to give his analysis of things. And Jeff Peters, who's the financial consultant for the county, is also going to give his analysis on what we can and can't do and how we need to proceed. This is just my opinion only. Oh, Craig Kaufman from RDC's here. Craig, nice to have you. It is my opinion, and the sheriff can tell you that this has been an ongoing project for us for I don't know how many years now, too many. But we got all the key people in place here today to look at these goals and ideas that's going to be presented to us, and we have to move forward with this project the best way we can, but we have to be financially responsible for the taxpayers too. The commissioners, of course, we're obligated to provide the sheriff with a jail for safe housekeeping, not only for his prisoners but for his employees, and that is our goal to do that. And the commissioners can say, yes, we're going to do this or we're going to do that, but we have to listen to the council because they're the ones that's going to operate the purse strings and tell us we can do this because we have this amount of money, or we can't do this. And that's the reason Mr. Peters is here today, and I thank you for coming back to another meeting, sir, because this guy is a wealth of knowledge, and he'll be able to want to tell us exactly what we can and can't do. That's my opinion only, but I trust him, believe in him, so that's enough out of me. We want to move this project as long as I'm saying it right. We want to move this project quickly. Time is of the essence for the sheriff and his staff and jail commander, and for the taxpayers. We, the taxpayers, have been very patient. We do have 2 taxes that are being paid, the correctional facility tax and the public safety tax, and they was meant to help fund this jail project. So I'm hoping today we'll get the wealth of knowledge that we all need so we can all come together after this meeting to decide exactly our best route to get this jail built. So you people here got more knowledge about things than I do, so I'm going to turn it over to Dan Zerner from Garmon Construction.
Thank you. So Commissioner Hobbs has asked me to take a few steps back, so I hope it doesn't bore everybody. But since we have Dave wasn't in the beginning process, Norm wasn't in the beginning process, Holly wasn't in the beginning of the process, he's asked me to step back and talk about a little bit of a rehash of what you had last week with BW here, but how we got to the delivery system choice, why we did, what are other counties doing, so you can all be comfortable with how we got to where we are today as far as people, delivery systems, the way we're approaching the project. So I'm going to take a few minutes and do that first. I'll answer any questions you have relative to that. Then with Elevatus' help, by the way, as you'll see, we're working with Elevatus on a number of projects, including the $1.2 billion project for the state of Indiana. We are their team. So we have a lot of current data, but with their help, I have thoroughly examined the budget for this project, and we'll talk about that with you today. And then when I get done with that and answer your questions, Jeff is going to talk you through how can we chew that budget? How can we finance this thing? So does that seem all right to everybody?
Yes, sir.
That's the approach we're going to take. So let me give you these. I'll walk through the first part of this. How are you, friend?
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks, sir.
Dave.
Thanks, sir.
Norm?
You can call me Norm, but I don't go by Joe usually.
Joe? And you're?
Craig needs to know.
Commissioner? And then okay, so first thing I'm going to talk about is just a little rehash of delivery systems. I'm not going to spend much time on Garmon. You can read that page. I've had enough of that. I was sharing with Joe that my very first meeting on this project was in Richard Lorenz's office in 2007. So we've been working on this a long time. I think my contract with the county's been in force now for 7 or 8 years, somewhere in there. Not really worried about that, but I want you to understand how we got there, where we are. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't love you and respect you, so if we need to make some changes, we can do that. But there are basically 5 different delivery systems that you can use by statute to build a jail. And when you look at the second page, it shows public delivery methods for options. First is the old design, bid, build. That's where you go hire an architect, they design it, then you throw it out on the street to bid, and you hire a general contractor, and it gets built. Nobody builds anything with design, bid, build, hardly anyone in public works. And the reason is the constructor is not engaged at all in the design process. So the architect makes all his best assumptions possible, nothing ever nefarious, but those either contractors understand they're not in the field like we are. They don't know exactly how to approach a problem or what to look for. And the contractor that bids it, the low bid contractor, is betting on the fact that he can find errors and omissions in the architect's drawings and then make that up in change orders and other things. And you'll also have no control of schedule. Whatever that general contractor does, he does. So nobody uses design, bid, build anymore. And I'm just going to breeze past that in the interest of time. Design build is a special statute in Indiana. It's different than the private sector design build. Design build is typically where, let's say you're doing the site design, and as the site starts to get constructed, then you're designing footers. The footer goes in, then you're designing walls. As the walls are going up, you're designing the roof system. It's a very continuous, evolving process. Unfortunately, with the state statute, you have to hire an architect first, design the project about 30 or 40%, put it out for proposals to hire a designer that's going to start from the beginning, design again. It's very long, laborious, expensive. Nobody uses design build statute. So in essence, you're going to have 3 different statutes that we're going to use. So I'm going to have you skip all the way around because I've already talked about it. I'm going to have you skip all the way to this page where it says construction manual as advisory. And we can back up and slow this down, but I'm just in the interest of your time and all you've got accomplished today. I figure this is the least of your interest, but I want to be sure everybody's on the same page. This particular form is the form where Garland is currently contracted to serve the county. So that's important for you to understand. Our contract is based upon this delivery form. And in this particular case, you contract directly with the architect, which you've already done. You contract with Elevatus to produce your design. Then with Garmon helping you, we will contract directly with the prime contractor to build the project. In other words, we'll have probably 5 prime contracts, you'll have a site contractor, you'll have a plumbing contractor, electrical contractor, a general trades package. We'll manage those 5 practices. We'll help you, we'll design those bid specs so that we can take advantage of as many local contractors we can. But the biggest thing you need to know is that we are your representative. We are 100% your professional advisor. Thanks, Director Paul. I'll bring it over. This will be your counsel.
No, this is Norm.
So the important part to understand here as a construction manager's advisor, our whole role is to protect your interests at every level, to run your project, to manage your budget, to manage your schedule, to handle all the working relationships with the architect, and to sit with the architect from day one, looking at his design to be sure that when we put it into bid documents, the holes are pretty much taken care of. There's schedule certainties, there's budget certainties, that we know what we're doing before that project ever gets bid. And then we will actually vet and pre-qualify the potential bidders to be sure that we get people that are legitimate and can construct the project in the way that should be constructed. That's what our role is. The critical part of this is to understand we will not construct anything. There will be no conflicts. It'll all be transparent. You'll get a report as commissioners every month, exactly where we are, what the budget is, what's happening. We'll have progress meetings every 2 weeks that the commissioners will be advised to sit in and represent it. You can sit right there with us, so we know exactly what's going on with this project. And that's my role.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Certainly.
So we're going to do a transportation building at the school right now. Will there also be the subcontractors there that will hear the questions you're going to ask of them?
There's 2 sets of meetings.
Okay.
There'll be one with the contractors all at a table. That'll probably be weekly starting out. Then at a certain point, it may go to bi-weekly, but we will control that meeting, and of course you all are welcome. Most of the time you don't want to be in all these meetings. Then we will have every 2-week owners meeting where all that information is shared, the budgets are shared, the progress is shared, the concerns are shared, decisions are made in an owners meeting without the contractors present. That answer your question?
Yeah, so that's where we find out, hey, this wasn't measured properly, the dirt won't compact properly.
This is where we found the tombstone underneath the
Right.
site.
So I mean, that's, I guess that's what I'm asking, is if there are delays.
You will know it.
Okay. All right.
The next way that you can by statute now, this is relatively new, this is about 3 years old, and by the way, we wrote the manual for Purdue University on this delivery method. So we're very advised in it. This is probably the second most popular delivery method in Liquid Jail, and this is called construction manager as constructor. And in this particular thing, you contract with Elevatus as a designer, you contract with Garmong to build it. That's the big difference. We become your builder. And under this particular method, we can construct, we can subcontract, we can do all those things. And the only difference is in this model, you get a guaranteed maximum price after the bid's already let. Well, that all sounds great, and the guaranteed maximum price can be good. The issue is you can bet on a guaranteed maximum price that somebody's going to add a little bit of cost to that just to cover the butt. Pardon me. In the CMA model that we showed before, you're going to buy it exactly at market rates. And so my thought, truly representing the owner, and believe me, I can talk out of both sides of my mouth depending on what I'm trying to pitch, right? I've been around this for 30 years. I can talk any way I want to talk about this. But I'm talking to you as if I'm sitting in your chair right now. In the way we're contracted right now, you get to buy it exactly what the market costs. And you get to see every invoice, you get to see every transparency, which I think for a commissioner is important. And once we bid it, we're going to know what it's going to cost anyway. So to me, there's not any advantage for you if you have the money to do this project. I'm going to go blow by that. This will come back in a minute. And then the last one is the BOT. This is the latest buzzword. And you'll see in a minute, Garmong's delivered projects under all these methods. And again, I can talk about it out of both sides of my mouth. Build, operate, transfer has become the new buzzword in the state of Indiana. Everybody wants to talk about doing a build, operate, transfer project. Well, first of all, you've already hired your architect. So I don't see the advantage of going to a single source of delivery when you've already hired the architect. Two is everybody wants to talk about the fact that there's no public bidding requirement. Well, to me, in your case, I think that's a disadvantage because talking to Commissioner Hobbs, he wants to be sure that all the local contractors at least get a chance to look at the project. If you're in a VOT, you're contracting with a group to bring that all in under one contract. They can pick and choose. You know, they can offer it to everybody. They can tell you they can offer it to everybody, and they may offer it to everybody, but there's no guarantee. You're selecting one group of people to build this project for you. And they have control of the architect, they have control of the financing costs, they have control of the budget. You can get it to where it's pretty transparent. We've done it both ways. But again, if you already have the money, which Jeff says you do, I don't see why you pay for the extra that may be in a BOT and lose control of the project that may be in a BOT if you can control it yourself. So that's the BOT solution. Now, we'll come back to all these. I produced a nice little chart for you here. And it's a very simple form that shows the comparative advantages between design, bid, build, CMA, CMC, and BOT. And you can see partnerships, risks, build, suit. So the nice thing is, I think that the model we have now, CMA, lets you pretty much have the best of all worlds, except we just don't have a GMP. And in this particular case, when we bid the project out and we have contingency in the budget anyway, we're going to cover that aspect. So I think one of the things that's really important for you is to see what other counties are using. So if you look at this right now, and it kind of validates, I think, where I am. Only one county has built a jail since 2015 using design, bid, build. Only 2 have used design, build. 12 have used CMA as advisor. 6 CMA as constructor, and only 2 as build, operate, transfer. So I think you can see that most of the attorneys, most of the professionals that are guiding counties have led to the fact we're using the same contract form as we already have executed with you. Again, if you want to change it, we can change it. We've delivered under all these systems. And you can see the percentages right here of the various contract forms in this little chart.
I have a question.
Sure, Paul.
On Carroll County, I was under the assumption that their recent jail that they built was under the BOT system.
That's correct. So if that's in here wrong, you are correct. I don't even see it listed.
I've got it under Carroll County. It says 2019, and it's got a.
It started out as CMA, but then BW came in and they did do a BW. In the end, they ended up doing that. So our people probably just didn't pick up on that. Thank you. But yeah, so that makes your number 3. When you go to the next page, and Carol will be wrong because of that, but you go to the next page, you can see who the counties were, the delivery method, whether before it was after House Bill 1006, the contractor, and the architect. You can see all of those were built right here. So again, it kind of gives you a reference that we're taking what most counties are using in the approach that we've done here, and used pretty successfully. The other thing you'll see is the number of jails, just to pat my own self right now, the number of jails that Garmont's built in the last few years compared to all the other contractors. We have a tremendous amount of experience in the jail world. We just opened a new division in Georgia solely to build jails. Georgia, we've identified 19 counties that need jails, which is about where Indiana was 10 years ago. So I'm not going to spend any more time on Garmont qualifications. There's references. You already know me. If you have questions, we'll address them. But if there's anything else about delivery systems or anything about this you want to know, and since you had an hour on it last week, I don't want to be redundant and I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to know about this before we move to budgets?
On the guaranteed maximum is just the BOT and the.
CMC.
Yeah, so those are the guaranteed maximum.
And I want to discuss that. The guaranteed maximum doesn't necessarily mean guaranteed maximum. Guaranteed maximum price applies if there's no scope changes. So if that scope stays constant and nobody says we want a door moved, or nobody says we found a old sewer line under this that's got to be removed that wasn't shown in the drawings, that still changes your price. If the scope changes, the price will change, even with the guaranteed maximum price. Guaranteed maximum price is for the scope of work that's bid at the time. So I want to be sure everybody understands that just because it says guaranteed maximum price doesn't mean you're not going to spend more money. Any other questions? All right, so Jeff, you want to hand these to our county officials in the back? See how many we got. I think I got just enough for county officials.
Thank you, sir.
We have one night when you look at. Now, this sheet's going to look a little confusing, but I'm going to talk you through it because the reason it's confusing is Jeff and I have spent the last 2 weeks looking at this from a whole variety of angles because, and don't be offended, sometimes I have the ability to offend people without even trying. But what I mean by that is, 2 or 3 weeks ago when Sam came to me, he says, the county is saying we only have $25 million. That is all we've got, total budget. So I wanted to look and say, what can you get for $25 million? That's partly what this sheet does. So Elevatus produced this jail where you see in the red numbers 39,775 feet. I wanted to say, is it possible we can do that for $25 million? So what we did was took the 7 jails you see up at the top, and we really should have taken Vigo County out. And the reason we should have taken Vigo County out, if you look across there, that jail was 154,000 square feet. So the efficiencies are far off the chart from a 30,000 square feet jail. And that reflects in the cost per square foot number that you see down there on the right. So what we did is we took the cost of these jails, the year they were built, then ENR stands for Engineering News and Report. They produce a construction inflation index to help us estimate, based on a cost of a project a few years ago, what that project would cost today. That's what that is. So we're trying to take these costs of the year they were built. For example, Lawrence County, Missouri was built in �22. If you apply the current factors to it, instead of $21,500,000, today it costs $22,998,000. So in that 3 years, it went up almost $2 million, $1.5 million. So then we take the soft cost budget, figuring average of about 10 to 12%. We took 10, and we add that to it. Soft costs are all your furniture, fixtures, equipment, financing, all those things in that lump. And what's the total cost to build that job today, and what is the cost per square foot today to build the project? And I will tell you right now that almost every jail we're seeing out there is about $700 a square foot. The 705 is really a little conservative because you'll see the Vigo County numbers in there at 583 above it. So we're about $700, $720 a square foot for every jail we're building right now. So we looked at that and said, all right, based upon Elevatus's square footage, what would the cost per square foot be if we were only going to spend $25 million? And that number came back at $555.44. Well, it's obvious, should be obvious to all of us that if the cost per square foot is averaging $705, there's no way we can build that jail for $25 million. It's just not possible. So the next question I ask myself is, if you hop down to the green box immediately below the red box here, where it says $34,481, if we use the average cost of today's construction and the soft costs in it, we can actually build $34,481 for about your $25 million budget. But that would require Elevatus to redesign where they are, to take out another 5,000 square feet, to probably spend another 4 or 5 months getting there. At the same time, construction costs are going up every month. And then this thing just keeps revolving, right? So the next thing I did was say, all right, what does it actually cost to build what you're seeing on the wall that Elevatus has proposed, with the soft costs, with the financing? And at the bottom of the sheet, you'll see these were the original numbers that Jeff provided me on 22,000, which he's going to go over that, have increased a little bit because now we're back up to a higher number. But these were how I originally developed the soft cost budget. And what I came to is it's going to cost you about $28,414,000, not counting, because I don't have those numbers. That doesn't count your water, your sewer, and your access. We don't have those numbers. So Jeff's assuming right now a combined cost for those of about $3 million when he gets to talk to you. That's not in my $28,414,000. So bottom line is to build where we are with design with Elevatus today, that number is $28,414,000 plus about $3 million, plus Jeff may have adjusted something. He's going to go over that with you here in a minute. So where does that put us? So how does this work from here? If you all really decide you want to move forward, our contract calls for us to produce for you a budget authorization that you execute to move the project to construction. Garmong has been involved so long with this. I know you're tired, we're tired, everybody's getting worn out over this. This needs to go to the hump. So my pledge to you is that Garmong will work from August to January in conjunction with Elevatus and Jeff, and we will not charge you another dime for our pre-construction services. We want to help you get this over the hump. The contract calls for us to be reimbursed at our labor rates plus 3% fee once it goes to construction. So being fully transparent, just use round numbers. If we had a $25 million project for construction, Garmong's will be at 3% of that at the end. That's just like you selling a gallon of milk. It costs you $1 and you get $1.03. That's Garmong's profit after working on this for 15 or 16 years, 3% of the construction number. But normally I'd be charging you $250 an hour to work from here to January to get this to bid. We're not going to charge you that. Paid us a pre-com fee once. We want to help you get this over the hump. I think you're in a critical position where you can make this happen. So we won't charge you any more for pre-com. So what would happen is, if you decide to go forward, based upon what you hear from Jeff and me today, Garmong, and you authorize, yes, we're going to move forward with this jail with a resolution, appropriating a budget, whatever Jeff tells you as our base budget. Garmong will work with Elevatus and Jeff the next 3 or 4 months to be sure we think it's within that budget. We have adequate contingency, which in my mind is 3 to 5%. So when we bid this project, we'll have 3 to 5% contingency, which, by the way, if we don't spend it, it comes back to you at the end of the project. But those are for unforeseens. Then what will happen is when Garmong bids the project and we accept the bids, then we will give you a final authorization request for the council and the commissioners to approve the final budget and go to construction. Basically, notice to proceed. So that's where we are procedurally. Any questions?
I just wanted some clarification. I mean, I want to make some clarification. I know we've thrown out the 25 million, and that was kind of erroneous on our part. What we actually, in our December 2023 meeting, voted on is not to, we wanted to use what revenue we had coming in,
Okay.
and that was already slated for the jail. And we just we're unified as a council to not raise taxes, not raise property taxes. We just wanted to use that revenue that we already had. And so that was what was actually voted on, not the 25 million. And I think Jeff's going to be able to.
He's going to address that.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Great clarification, thank you.
So just to double check, you're not gonna charge us from August to January. However, at the end of the project, there's a 3% fee of the total.
The way that works is every month during the construction process, we will issue an invoice for our labor services, and we get an additional 3% fee of the cost of the project at that time as that accumulates. So it doesn't wait till the end, but the total at the end will be 3%. It'll amount to 3%. That make sense? That's what's in our contract today. We haven't adjusted it, we haven't changed it. That's the way it's been forever.
When was that contract that entered into?
I'd have to go back and look. I sent it to Sam and the attorney, but I think it's 7 or 8 years.
About 8 years
It
ago.
automatically renews, although the county does have the option, as I have the option, to terminate the contract with 30 days' notice. So it's transparent. And what you'll see is everything, every month, you'll see a transparent accounting of every dollar that's been spent. So, Jeff? If that's all, everybody good?
And you've looked at the budget scope entirely, Dan, with, from A to Z,
A
correct?
to Z so far. Now, we're going to, assuming you decide to go forward, Greg and our team are really going to get tangled up together. We're going to be looking at every design item. For example, I'm not picking on Greg, I don't know this to be true. I'm just going to give you an example. The contractor will understand this. Engineers and architects are designed to look at things differently than constructors. For example, they may design a connection on that building that has 5 bolts. And we may say, you know, if you'd make that 2 gauges heavier, we could use 3 bolts and we'll save X in labor. We'll be doing all those kind of exercises together as we move forward. If you get us past this point where Greg is released to do his design documents.
That doesn't trigger a change of scope on our end, right, and increase our cost.
No, I mean, we're all going to be working. Our biggest responsibility and challenge, quite frankly, as Garmong, is to be the traffic cop. So once you say, yeah, we accept this program, our people are going to be sitting, Greg, be sure we're designing to this standard and we're not just designing to something that may come in different. Good questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So to piggyback on where Dan was, if we go to page 3, show you the sources and uses for the budget. The uses down below are the project costs. Net construction is per Dan's worksheet at 39,775 square feet, so what you're currently working at that cost per square foot at $640.65. Then his contingency in there at $441,854. The soft costs at $1,990,000 are the soft costs excluding financing stuff, because the numbers I gave him on the bottom of his sheet were for a smaller project, so I had to scale that up. For water, sewer, and ingress, egress from that site, we built in a placeholder of $3 million. We would anticipate this would be sold through an underwriter. They're got a little placeholder for other costs of issuance, bond counsel, local legal counsel, municipal advisor, underwriters counsel, bond ratings. We talked a little bit before about bond ratings. You are currently in the midst of an audit at the county level. Auditor informs us that should be done in about a month's time. So that will be important to going forward and getting a bond rating. The bond rating will serve 2 purposes. One, if it's high enough, it will get you a lower interest rate for the entire cost of the project. 2, if it's not high enough, what we might do is buy insurance in order to scale this up to a AA bond rating and drop your insurance costs. And the higher you rate without the insurance, the cheaper the insurance is. So we want to go through that exercise of going through the bond rating, because at a size of project you're looking at, every 10 basis points or 0.1% difference across this 20-year period, and we'll walk through the 20-year period, but across the 20-year period, it's about $300,000. So it's always advantageous for these long-term large projects to buy down the interest rate as best we can. The top part, we're looking at par amount of the bonds at $27,500,000 and cash on hand from the correctional facility lit $4 million. So any questions on the budget that gets us to all-in cost of the project?
Jeff,
Yes.
so if I understand that right, between this chart where you have the 28 change, you're basically adding the 3 million plus rounding to get to the 31.5 to get the sewer and water and everything over to the jail that's not in this.
I added that, yeah, and revised the soft cost of occupancy for the project. So I'll skip to the headline. I think, based on, what the council is looking at, that we actually have a fundable solution as we go forward, keeping the income tax rate at the county level at 2.5% as it is today. And I know the last time we had talked was you also didn't want to extend the time period for the amount that jail lit was outstanding. So I think you've got like 17 years. In summary, what we're proposing here, and we'll walk through, is to utilize that income tax stream, but back it with property taxes. Do a 20-year period, and then the council, as they see fit across this next 17-year period, or if you have the sale of the existing site, things like that, to put away some money, and you can then call these bonds in year 17 if you want, if you have sufficient cash in order to do that. So back to the detail on page 1. The original plan of finance that we had is going to be lease rental bonds issued through Building Corporation. And again, we talked about before, particularly in the beginning, you have the ability to do general obligation bonds, which are limited to 1/3 of 2% of your assessed value. If you have a project that goes beyond that, or you want to preserve that bond cap, you do a lease rental with the Building Corporation, which is what all schools in the state do, and lots of other units of government, because you just don't have enough debt capacity in that GO bond category to do these. So lease rental bonds through Building Corporation. Originally, we were just going to pledge the local income tax from your correctional facility lit and your public safety lit. And that was also going to be used to pay the annual debt service. Well, as you all know, as we got through with project costs and the lit available, you did not have enough money in order to cover that and go forward with the project, so now we've had these delays. Brand new legislation this spring for income taxes, and I'm not going to talk about the property tax side, but just the income tax side here. All income taxes that you have in place today, economic development income tax, certified shares, correctional facility lit, public safety lit, all of these vanish at the end of 2027, completely thrown out. Brand new structure that takes effect beginning in 28. For these new income taxes, they are going to require annual approval. So before, when you imposed those income taxes, they continued until rescinded or revised. And if you had issued bonds against them, you were precluded from changing those amounts. Well, now that it has to be approved every year in the new structure, it is not a good revenue stream to pledge for bonds. So the market is going to say, you need to have a better pledge. The only other real pledge you have is going to be property tax. So what we are anticipating, and what all units of government that do income tax bonds are now headed to, is that you are going to impose, the income tax to make the payments, but the actual security for the bonds is going to be property tax. The new lit structure allows you to go up to 2.9%. You are currently at 2.5%. In this new lit, it allows up to 1.2% to be levied countywide, with all the collections going to the county unit of government. So just like what you had done with your correctional facility jail lit, it all came directly to the county. You didn't have to share it with anyone. It also allows you to do 1.2%. Can we wait, sir? You also will have the ability, under the law the way it's written today, to levy a 1.2% lit countywide. 75% of those collections can be retained by the county unit of government, and then 25% goes to towns. You also have the option, or will have the option, of 0.4% to be levied countywide for fire and EMS, with collections going to fire territories and municipal fire departments, and an option to include township fire departments and volunteer fire departments. You can also impose 0.05% countywide with collections going to townships, and that distribution now would be shared based on population. You know, for the 45 or 50 years that income tax has been in effect in Indiana, it has always been shared according to property tax. So if you levied more property tax, you drew more income tax. That's completely thrown out when you get into 2028. Now it's majority allocated by population. So you're going to have winners and losers that previously levied a lot of property taxes but didn't have a lot of population. You could also do 0.05% to be levied countywide, with all the collections going to the library government. You have one library, so it could get up to 0.05%. So the goals before were to limit the lit to the current rate and the length of the jail project, and limit the jail project to the lit revenue available for debt service. We already talked about sources and uses. So possible new plan of finance that we're looking at is lease rental bonds, again issued through a building corporation. Now today, the pledge will be property tax, again because your income tax revenue stream is no longer sufficient to get the best interest rates in the market. But you will still look at paying your annual debt service from your annual available lit. Because you're under the existing lit structure in 2026 and 2027, that creates a little bit of an issue on funding that cash flow wise and coverage wise. But what I'm looking at, in conversation with Anton yesterday, he reminded me that you had an appropriation of like $300,000 from the public safety lit fund in '24 that was never expended for the jail project. There's another $300,000 appropriated in '25. I'm assuming you will similarly do that in '26 and '27, because you're going to have basically the same revenue structure that you've had in these past years. So the thought is that you will pay your '26 and '27 debt service payments from the correctional facility lit fund, which is the jail lit, and also from the revenue streams for the public safety lit and the residual balance that you have in the public safety lit fund. To start 2025, you're sitting on about $1.5 million. So all of that should pretty much cash flow. Okay, 2028, what we assumed was that you will impose 1.2% lit countywide and 1.2% lit countywide, with 25% being shared with your two towns. That leaves, to get to your 2.5%, that leaves you another 0.1% that you could either allocate to townships, libraries, fire and EMS. Or if you decide under that new structure later on that there needs to be more money to fire and EMS, you can go all the way up to that 2.9, even though that's not your goal at this point in time. But if you impose those two 1.2% for the 2.4%, the way the distribution formula would work, you will be looking at getting about $1.5 million more annually after debt service than you do today. And we'll walk through that on the last sheet. But yeah, let's actually do that right now. The back sheet, I looked at your income tax, and this was kind of what we had discussed before about for you to enter into funding this through your income tax, some of which you were using for operations, you needed to make sure you've got enough money in order to do that. So I broke this down. First column for 25, 6, and 7 shows all the different lits you have: certified shares, public safety, PSAP, economic development, jail lit, and the amounts are in that first column. So for 25, you bring in about 9.22 million. In 26, the certification is out, and it's kind of a soft certification. Beginning of August each year, the state budget agency says this is how much we think we're going to distribute to your county income tax in the ensuing year. That amount for you guys is about 9.9 million, up from 9.2 million. So you're up like 7.61%. That's a great increase for that time period. I think that shows that you've got strong income tax base and continuing to grow in Owen County. So that helps the funding for all of this. The available for operations column, I looked at, okay, in 2025, you set aside about $300,000 out of the public safety lit fund, and you set aside the $1,017,000 that you were going to get in jail lit. So for operations, you're spending about $7.9 million in operations, and you had about $1.3 million for debt service. If we go into 2026, and one of the things that the commissioners were pushing for last week was try and get this thing done by year end, be ready to go. We'll talk about kind of the timing for that, whether we can get to that fast. But if that could be done and we start to have debt service in 2026, we would estimate that debt service to be approximately $2,115,000. So in the 2026 amounts, if we took $1,019,000 out of the public safety lit and your jail lit is scheduled right now to produce $1,095,000. So that would give you a debt payment, and that's the center column allocated for debt service, of about $215,000 or $2,115,000. That would leave you about $7.8 million in lit taxes for operations in 26. Just down about $100,000 from 2025, but I would assume with your cash balances, because again, when I look at your 2024 results, you added significantly to the cash balance of the general fund, the economic development fund, the public safety lit fund. So it looked like you were operating within your bounds and adding cash to it. So I believe that you will still be able to do what you need to do operationally and produce that amount of debt service in 26. 27 is merely a repeat of that. I have not assumed any increased growth in the income tax. But again, it should give you about $7.8 million in income tax for operations, $2.115 million for debt service on the project. Then in 2028, where we change into the new lit structure, again, utilizing that 1.2 for the county services, the 1.2 and keeping 75% for small cities and towns, I think your amount jumps from 9.9 million to about 11.5 million. And after debt service of 2,115,000, that leaves you 9,385,000 in operations. That would give you enough to cover some of the inflationary costs that might happen in 26 and 27, help cover some of your other property tax loss that you're going to have from circuit breaker and from the new homestead credits in Senate Bill 1. And also, if you have the desire to end this thing and pay it off in 17 years, that would give you an amount of money in excess every year that you could start to carve off. The other thing that Anton brought up early in the year when we had this conversation was he thought it would be nice to be able to utilize the increase in income tax collections over time. From a bond issuance standpoint, we can't do that. If you are trying to save money and make that final debt payoff 17 years from now rather than 20, you can utilize that. So as you have this increase, like I say, this year's increase is 7.61%. So if you have that increase and you can operate under your current revenue stream for income taxes, you could start to squirrel that away and then potentially call those bonds in year 17, pay them off, and meet all your objectives. So back to page 2. Okay, we talked about addressing, limiting the length to that 17 years. Other issues down that bottom section. Due to the legislative changes, some of the units of government may or are going to experience a loss in annual lit after 27. So like the library today, they receive in 25, $439,000 in income tax. Under the new formula and the way that it's written, if you allocate specific to a library unit, you are limited to 0.05%, which is only going to be about $260,000 or $70,000. So they would experience a loss in their operating revenue of their income taxes if you use that structure. Similar, if we look at the towns of Gosport and Spencer, because of the distribution on population rather than taxes, property taxes levied, if you do this 1.2 and share 25% with the cities and towns, Gosport is going to get a whole lot more money in income tax than they previously got, and Spencer's going to get significantly less. But again, those kind of distribution formulas are outside of your control because that's how the statute's written. Now, there is another section in the statute that was written that basically says that any unit of government can share their allocation of income taxes with any other unit of government to fulfill their functions. So of this excess that you may have annually in income tax for 2028 forward, you potentially could peel part of that off on an annual basis and say, okay, we want to make the township whole, or we want to give more to public safety or fire and EMS, and we're going to distribute it to other units of government individually in X amount of dollars. So I think you will have some flexibility when you get to 2028 to potentially address these people that are losing, or these units of government that may be losing income tax revenue. But big picture is, you know, where we started the year, you did not have a funding structure that could get you to the project. I believe this funding structure gets you to the project as it's drawn there, as it's estimated today. When the new legislation was passed, the income tax statutes don't come into effect until July 1 of 27 and have to be adopted by October 1 of 27. But both the people on the House floor and Senate floor, the final push, disclosed that we know this isn't perfect, but we've got time to make changes, which tells me we're going to have legislative changes in 26, probably more in 27 because it'll be a long legislative session. So this may not be the structure that we have for income taxes when you get to the middle of 27, but as it's written today, you know, we can paper all this, and I believe it gives you a fundable solution, meets your requirements of not raising taxes on the taxpayers, and gives you a long-term strategy if you want to limit it to that 17-year period. For us, going forward, because of the new legislation, because of things that we're working through, I would really like to finish vetting this project and how we're financing it through an underwriter and through bond counsel. I would love to come to maybe, would you guys be ready at the next council meeting to have a, you know, this same discussion, but, you know, kind of chew on it, research, let's dig
I
a little
would
deeper.
think so. I would think that, I mean, in September's meeting,
Yes, and that is, was it September the 8th at 6 o'clock?
I do believe, yeah.
Okay. If that's all right with you guys, I would like to
Yeah.
come visit with you.
I think
if you want
that
to be on the
sounds
agenda
doable.
for that.
Mm.
Okay. And again, like I say, I want to go through basically that. Get everybody comfortable that this is a fundable solution. I think it finally hits all the goals that you set all those years ago, and we're finally to that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sir?
How concerned are you, because from 28 on, this is an estimate that's just been put in every line. With the way things are changing in cost and everything else rapidly, there's a chance that this could be way offline 3-4 years down into that post-28 scenario, correct?
The revenue side,
Yeah,
yes,
because we don't know what's coming down the pipe
correct.
from above. And if they change just a few numbers, then this 11.5 could drop to 9 or 10. And then this puts everything else in jeopardy that we've got on this paper.
That is possible. And the solution, all these are self-solving once we issue the bonds. Because the underlying security is property tax. So if the revenue falls to a point on the income tax side that you can't make the debt service payment, then whatever you're short, principal and interest wise on that next payment would go on property tax rolls. So the bondholders get made full. But now you violated what you wanted to do, which was
Right.
not put any pressure on property tax. The other thing I would say from the revenue side is, although you haven't had, 7.61% growth annually, you have continued to grow your income tax base over the last, multiple years.
Do you know what that percentage is on, by chance?
I do not, but again, it's something that, I would not expect the revenue stream on income tax to decrease in Owen County. However, what you said, it could be a legislative change that gets made between now and when you adopt in '27. And I wouldn't care to guess about that or even flip a coin. I was surprised with what all they did this last legislative session. But again, to me, this is the second push from tax caps. 15 years ago, the legislature said, we don't like property tax, we like income tax better. We're going to impose all these tax caps, and we're going to give you new income tax options to replace that. This spring, same thing. We're going to cut more property taxes and give you a different income tax structure to go that way. I don't know why they like income tax better than property tax, but in their wisdom, they seem to think that's the way to go. So I feel like you will, as a county, have an income tax solution to your future problems. Maybe a little bit different than that.
I would like to point out that this is not, our job is to protect you. I want everybody that's a public official to understand that this is not going to be easy. But we're in the sandbox with you, and we will make it work. But to give you an example that I just discovered 5 minutes ago, since I wasn't involved in the LWAS contract, we just assumed a design cost of 5%, and your contract with them is 5.5%. So that number's already off $200,000 or $300,000. We'll figure out where to find it, and we'll get it within your budget, but that's what we're gonna do. But it's gonna take hard work, It's gonna take total transparency. It's gonna take all of us sitting together and saying, here are the actual facts, no hearsay, no scuttlebutt, here are the facts, here are your options, what decision do you wanna make? And we will do that within the parameters of the money you set aside. So, just understand that's our job. But we'll make it happen. But don't think for a minute that we're up here selling you pure utopia, because you never want to hire a contractor that tells you everything's perfect. What you want to hire is a contractor that says when things go wrong, do they become part of the solution or part of the problem? And our commitment to you is we're going to be part of the solution, and we'll make it happen. But we need a certain amount of money to even have a chance. And so when we get to this 31.5 number, or if you want to round it off to 32 million to help you with some of Elevados's costs, whatever you decide to do in there, we will make it work. Just know it.
So timing wise from us, like I say, I'm prepared, looking forward to our discussion on September the 8th.
Let me make one more comment. Goes on with him.
Yeah, go ahead.
The cheapest time to buy this project out is if we can place the bids on the street immediately after the end of the year, first year holiday. We want to be able to advertise these the first week in January. We'll have everything ready. Elash, you can make that schedule for us, right? We can have design documents ready for us to review and final budget by 1st of December.
That was money.
Okay, so you understand, we put the documents out on the street. We need to give them at least 3 weeks to get really good numbers. So we'll have the bids back by the end of January review. We would open them in your meeting, probably the first week in February. You meet the first and third weeks?
Yes.
So we'd open the first week of February, we'd take them under advisement for 2 more weeks and be ready to issue bids, or you'd approve bids at your third week meeting in February. We'd spend the next 3 or 4 weeks issuing contracts, checking insurance, all that stuff you gotta go through, and then plan on opening up and giving notice to proceed construction about March 1st, March 15th. That's where we are, if you decide to move forward. But Elevatus can't sit on this very long and meet that schedule.
Okay, so mid-February, we would have what we believe to be the final total amount.
No, you'll actually have the final total amount, yeah, for sure, but mid-February.
Mid-February. So what we typically do in a lease structure timing-wise is when they get those bids in, we get the final amount, we then resize it. So, we've got 27.5 in here. If it's really gonna be 26,710, we scale that down, take a week to market it, sell the bonds, and then close it so that the amount you borrowed matches what they believe the cost is. Now, it still has the contingency in it, but again, like you said, if you don't use the contingency, you get it back at the end of the project. But that's how we make sure that we only issue as much as we need. So we time it according to that. To hit mid-February, we really need to be working through this. So I don't know if it's possible at this point that September meeting, potentially we could have a push forward after that discussion. That would be optimal. The vetting my answers and some of my strategy through underwriter bond counsel. Rick Hall is the bond counsel that you've been working with since the inception of the income taxes for this project. I assume.
Yes.
Okay, I'll bet questions through him. I also have a non-binding letter from an underwriter that if I can get your signature on, or I don't know if you need to run that through legal and let them read it first, I'll leave that with you. But when you can get that back, and again, this one's non-binding, this doesn't have to be the underwriter that we're going to use, but it will give me access to an underwriter to ask specific questions to flush all this out. And assuming in September or whatever that we get pushed forward, our next step will be to go to Rick Hall, bond counsel, and say, okay, get me a calendar that walks you through, council, commissioners, all the steps that get that bonding in place to mid-February. in order to be in a position to resize, market, sell, and close.
If you do approve it in September, Carl, I'm gonna start sitting double bodice on a bi-weekly basis at least to ensure we're in sync with where the budget design is going.
Good questions for me
I
on?
do. So we have an idea of what our monthly or yearly payment what we can afford. If we if the finance charge is over that, you spoke about an income tax raise of 1.2, but can that raise be adjusted to just what we would need as opposed to a full 1.2?
Yes.
1.2 is your max.
And then on the
And what I
public,
would, to kind of piggyback on that, if you lower the 1.2 that you're sharing with cities and towns, that would probably maximize more money to you at the county versus the city and town.
correct. So on that then, the current public safety tax that we implemented, where the town of Gosport and the town of Spencer are both receiving funds from that tax.
Yes.
For the new legislation that came into effect, is there an adjustment there where that price can be adjusted or is it fixed?
It goes away.
It goes away.
Yes.
When does that fall off?
27, in 27. Every income tax you have in place today completely goes away at the end of 27. No jail lift, no public safety, etc. Now, one thing I would add to historical context, when we all sat out there and raised the income tax for public safety, it was specifically for the jail project
That's correct.
and to make that match. Those funds were only shared with Gosport and Spencer because statutorily they had to be shared because the county raised it for this project.
That goes away in 27.
Yes.
How confident are you that we'll get a double A on rate?
Oh, I think we're gonna buy it with insurance. I don't think, I don't think you'll get it. But the library, and this is an older debt, and it's only a couple $1 million in countywide, but the library rated by itself at AA minus, which, I was surprised. And not that there's anything wrong, it's just when you start to get out into the country and the smaller counties, they don't normally rate that high. But my hope is that you'll come in at, A+ maybe, and, I would think probably no less than an A, and that will allow you to buy that insurance up to that AA amount and get you the cheapest interest rates. And that's what I've worked in the costs and the financing.
Do you have any idea what that cost would be, Jeff, if we come in there today? What the insurance would cost us, get us to double
I've
A?
estimated the insurance at a little over $147,000.
Good.
But again, that will probably buy you down 40 or 50 basis points, which would be, $1.5 million across that time period. So it's well worth the spend to buy the insurance, to buy down the interest.
Yeah.
Is your rating affected by the amount of cash balance you have?
Partly. They look at a whole bunch of components. It'll be operation management, government, cash reserves on hand, cash that we're putting toward this project. So, that's the story I plan to tell is that, this has been in the works for years. Here we've accumulated $4 million. We're buying down our amount of bonds that we're going to issue. You have, again, produced, like I say, based on 24, you added to the cash balance in the general fund, public safety lit fund, economic development, income tax fund. So it shows that you're living well within your means, which is the story that I would plan to tell to standard holders.
Is that insurance at one time, the buy down?
Yes, you buy it at the front, and it stays for the duration of those bonds.
But you don't pay anymore, just
You don't
fee
pay,
it.
you pay the one time, and so that gets you in a position that if all the world were to go bad, your bondholders would still get paid by the insurer. but then you'll owe the insurer what they had to pay for the bond debt service. So you're not totally off the hook, but it gets you in a position where they are going to give you a much better interest rate because
Right.
their potential loss of principal goes to almost nothing.
Okay. Carla, would you like me to attend that council meeting?
On the cost of the sewer and water, is that just an educated guess or?
Just a guess. And I don't want, I always hate to say things in public hearings that come back and bite me in the fanny. But I would think there should be some discussion with utilities to where maybe the county doesn't have to bear that entire cost because you will be the utilities' biggest customer.
I agree.
So there should be some negotiation.
There is, as a matter of fact, there's gonna be a meeting with Commonwealth to discuss, Greg's here, this cost of the sewer itself, whether it's somewhere at 1.8 to
When you
2.2
look at
million
what you're
dollars.
gonna contribute every month for the next 30 or 40 years, it's a big sum, so there ought to be some consideration, I would think.
Well, I spoke with a lady from Commonwealth, and she very knowledgeable in the fact that they thought they could help us considerably with this cost of the sewer.
On the sewer and water?
And there
Sewer, no.
may be also some USDA money, Commonwealth is good with that, or
Yep.
some other funding money. So we just threw that number out there thinking when we looked at the lineal feet and thought that was a reasonable placeholder. All those things would help us though.
Absolutely.
So in your commitment to hold hands through all of this, Jeff, are you going to come to the council each year and say it's time to do your lit renewal and those kinds of things? We have 3 council members that'll be
Yeah,
gone.
we'll probably put that on the agenda.
I'm just afraid something's gonna get lost, I'll be 20 years older when this is all done, we all will, and it changes. We're pretty sure we'll have 3 new council people, and I don't want the sheriff to have to, okay, we gotta go to council. Is towns aware of this? Is the town of Spencer aware? Have they paid attention that they're gonna lose money, most likely, from this process?
They should, and we have a lot of city and town clients around the state and other units of government. And what we have been doing for them is putting together the analysis of, hey, under this statute, either here's the rate I need you as a county to impose for me, or I'm gonna lose this amount of money. So that we have presented it to the county so that they can decide, how we're gonna be funded. From the county side, for my county clients, I've said the inverse, which is, you should have the cities and towns do their own analysis and come to you and petition you as to what they need and work from there. But again, I don't know if we're way too early to start, because we're 2 years away before you're even going to be eligible to act on it, and we may have a different set of rules by then.
And if that set of rules changes in that 2 years, how much is it going to put off the whole out to the 2045 deadline? I think it's.
Once we sell the bonds, that payment is due for that next time period. If you cannot make it with income taxes, it will go on the property tax rolls. And it will, like clockwork, it will roll off and be paid. Yeah, and it's, a fixed amount at that point in time. You know what that expense is gonna be.
So it's really important to listen to legislation. Try
Yes.
to stay on top of.
Very important.
We already know we're losing $208,000 in homestead and over 65 in our calculations for this year for 2026. So if that goes up or down, hopefully it won't go any less, but any more, but that's a pretty significant amount just right off the top in year 1, so.
Yeah, and I looked at that amount for you guys. It's similar to what I've seen in most of my other counties proportionally. The big amount of that obviously is the new homestead credit. So I think you will have more circuit breaker loss going forward because of the deductions for assessed value in the 1% property going from 100% to 33% and 2% property going from 100% to 67%. I think those are gonna drive rates up over time and cause you more circuit breaker, but I don't think you will see any sort of spike like you saw this year. I think most of that is all the homestead credit, which was a instantaneous 2026 implementation.
All the discussions, this is a discussion of my clients and the government, people I'm with every day, and all the discussions are, there's no guarantees that the legislature is gonna look at this again because of counties like Owen that are already financially strapped getting hit so hard. I don't see it going down any further. I think you might get a little relief in the next 2 sessions, but who knows?
In light of the towns benefiting from what the county is wanting to accomplish, does the towns ever chip in with the counties and help them financially?
In projects,
Yes.
it has happened over time, you know, thinking back a long way. Because yeah, typically it's, you know, mine's mine, yours is yours. Shelbyville, Shelby County took and diverted their income tax revenue in order to fund their jail. Did you do that?
No.
But yeah, they threw in and allocated their income tax. And in the existing statutes, there is an ability to basically divert your income tax distribution to another unit of government for a joint project. Rarely used.
Which would have to be their consideration and their vote to make it happen.
Yes. Would require
Nothing on our side.
an ordinance. Well, if you did a joint project, it would require it on both sides, I believe.
Has to start with your ask, though.
Yeah, it would be your ask, and you would probably have to pass an ordinance to receive it. They would have to pass an ordinance in order to distribute it and then use it.
But it is workable.
Yes, it is workable. And that statute that I referred to about if you were going to reallocate some of your income tax to help offset their loss, that statute, if I remember right, it reads any recipient, so they could do the inverse to you.
Go the other direction.
Yes.
What was that? What was that code? Is it in here?
It is in Senate Bill 1, and if I remember right, it is section 142.
Thank
I
you.
might have a copy in here, I'll look for it.
Thank you.
What?
Well, I mean, they're gonna benefit. The town's gonna benefit.
Gosport, I think, will benefit.
Yeah.
Not Spencer.
Well,
I don't think so.
No, I think they're
let's go
going,
with the 25 million.
You mean down the road, they're gonna lose.
in 2028, if
Yeah,
you
but
do what
they-
I've
They're
proposed.
gonna gain a jail.
Yeah, that's what.
True. Yeah. And it depends on what you do as a council regarding that up to 0.4% for fire EMS. Because they actually have a fire territory. So they will, and again, we haven't seen the final rules from the DLGF, but I would guess that they will get their distribution based on the population, not only in Spencer, but the population that they serve in that fire territory, into that bigger geographic area.
But, and when it's all said and done, I'm not putting everything on the council, but it's gonna be putting it on the council. They're gonna have to be the one to decide where either the amount that
Yeah.
we'll expend.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we can talk 20 million, 30 million, $40 million. At the end of the day, the council's gonna have to be the one that makes the decision based on the criteria and the numbers that you presented on how much money they're willing to spend on the project.
Yeah, and like I say,
Sorry, guys, I'm not putting it on you, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it does.
yeah, and what I tried to present to you again today, as you look through those numbers, that's funding this as we currently believe it is.
And that's funding that as the sheriff, as Alavatas has got this design on the wall here. That's correct.
Yes.
Without a change of scope of work, it's just right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying though, Jeff, there's still a lot of uncertainty on what the state's gonna do and some of their regulations of the taxes.
Yes, but you know, we do have what they've written so far, and that's kind of what I'm walking you through if all that stays as it is today, here would be your winners and losers. And we can go further into that. I don't know if you want to do it before you make a jail decision, or if you want to wait and do that later in
But these numbers are as is, what we're collecting and what we're gonna spend. This isn't adding.
Correct, that is my best guess today, and that is only looking at if we did the 1.2 and the 1.2 and kept 75% of the second 1.2.
At the September meeting, will you have a ballpark of yearly finance, and what it would ballpark cost?
To finance that project?
Yeah.
It's on there, it's in
It's
the
on
debt
there.
column, it's
Yeah.
$2,115,000 a year.
Gotcha.
And those coverage percentages, this is one of the things I need to vet with bond counsel is, you should not have to go through all the property tax hoops that you normally have to if we can convince bond counsel that you have every expectation that you can pay income tax for this debt service. It's not actually going on the property tax.
Well, that was what I was gonna ask. I mean, because normally it has to be on the ballot and be voted on if it's a property tax.
If it draws a
Issue.
valid petition.
Yeah.
And I think that based on the new law and the way that it's written, that bond councils have come to the conclusion that if you can reasonably show that you can make debt service payments with another source, you don't have to go through all of those procedures. Surely you're gonna have to go through some, but again, that's why I need to vet it with them, and then if we get a decision made, have them lay out the calendar, so we'll know what approvals have to be made by council, by commissioners, and when, in order to hit that February deadline.
The other thing is, if you do approve this, I'm going to be asking for a committee assignments. Sheriff and Bill, obviously, a member from the council, a member from commissioners, to be sitting with us as we have these design meetings. So as we make these decisions, somebody's telling the council what we're doing, somebody's telling the commissioners what we're doing, and somebody's helping us make these decisions as to, because there are going to be some hard decisions, what do we put in, what do we take out. We'll be having, I need that committee to sit with this design process as we start forward in the design documents. Are you further than schematic design at this point?
Well, we've got anything from between Carroll and Lawrence, Missouri.
But on this particular set, you're not
No, schematic.
schematic design.
Yes.
So what will happen is we'll start to move into this design process into actions. It's going to get built, and we'll need input from the sheriff, and we'd like to have a council and commissioner represented in those meetings as well.
So Jeff, you're coming back to our next council meeting
Yes, September the 8th, 6 o'clock.
with some overview of,
This same thing, just further the discussion. Thought this would be a good place for you guys to dig down, formulate any other questions or thoughts that you might have. But yeah, I would just plan on going through this again and digging as deep as you want to do.
So Jeff, do we need a formal request by the commissioners to approve a certain budget for that mission for them to act on if they decide to act? Isn't that typically the way this process works, is the commissioners make that request to council before they?
Yeah, it's more on the legal side, I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of feel like that has been the inherent ask for quite some time.
On the repayment, you've got it set up for 17 years, because that was at our request, correct? That's as long as the,
That shows at 20. It goes through 20, 40.
5.
145.
So that's it scheduled out at 20 years. So my thought is that the difference in the second column, that 9.385 million that you'll start getting in 28, is more than the 7.9 million you're using today. So you could take that off and put it in another fund and leave it there and let it accumulate for whatever year. And then when we get to year 17, use that money to call the bond
So you can't
Again,
pay it
it's
off,
not required.
can't pay it off to the 17th year.
No, the call period will probably be after year 10. So the first 10 years will be locked down, and then you can make one call after that. Yeah.
Can you make interest payments or principal payments the first 10 years?
Yes, you will be making principal and interest payments
So can you
during the
double
first
up?
10 years. And then, again, if you do that bond call, you save whatever interest that has not come due yet.
Let's say you wanted to throw $300,000 on it, on principal only payment, is that an option in the first 10 years?
Probably not, because the cost to have the attorneys do a bond call for just $300,000 is probably cost prohibitive. But again, if you're on a schedule where you can say, hey, we're gonna have $6 million by year 17, and we wanna call $6 million and that's all that's left, that is probably what I would shoot for. Because it is, a little bit of a costly transaction to call bonds, have the attorneys, deem that to be gone, et cetera.
The best thing would be to earmark that and put it by itself.
Are we earning interest on our correctional facility tax money?
You should be, I don't know where you're investing in.
Yes, there should, okay, good.
Jeff, what's the interest rate on that bond account for 20 years, 2.115?
I think I calculated that one at like 4.6 or 4.62, which I feel like is probably gonna be achievable. Yeah, I did it at 4.6. Depending on what happens. Everybody thinks we get the rate cut in September, but I think that's probably already baked into a lot of the market rates today. And again, if we get a final number mid-February, we're gonna basically sell that third week of February. So I think we're very good to manage that and get
Jeff, can I ask you a hypothetical question? You were sitting on the council, how do you feel about this?
That's one I never answered.
That's why I said hypothetical.
I've been 30 years in the cheap seats, and I like this side. I admire you guys that you have to make those tough decisions. How much do you tax somebody in order to provide what level of service?
Well, it's a big deal, and the government, everything seems to be changing, there's nothing stable, and all these things on the state and also on the federal level. So we have to, in some way, we're playing chess.
Yeah.
Make moves and see
But
what happens.
it's still at the end of the day, we can discuss this till we're blue in the face. At the end of the day, we have to decide where the council is going to be good at on the cost. If it's, 25 million that we talked about earlier, or the 32 million, that's gonna be the council's decision. If it's lower than what's predicted here and stuff like that, and then we got BW here and some other people, we talk about build, operate, transfer. It's still, at the end of the day, it's what's your dollar figure that the council comes up with.
Yeah, and like I say, I think what we've presented today hits their criteria of not
Right.
raising the income tax rate and providing a strategy to limit that
And
repayment
it
to
builds
17 years.
what the sheriff had,
Builds
Elbos.
you what you have today, which again will make it the quickest to get to final drawings to bid, right? Because that's where we're at today, Dave. The existing design you have.
Yeah, there is a big difference between that allocated money, that amount of money. That's where the count, I'm not throwing on the council, but that's where it comes. But if you change the money bracket, it's 31.5 here for what the government always come up. And if they say, well, if the council, and I'm not throwing on you guys, but at the end of the day, it's gonna come to your wheelhouse, is that you're willing to spend this amount of money, regardless. Whatever that amount of money is what the sheriff and whoever's gonna be involved. That's what they built to, at the end of the day.
I think that's what
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, I know what Jeff presented, and I appreciate what he presented, but still, it's gonna be up to the council to make that final decision if we're going this amount, or if we're gonna go this amount, because that's what the other players out here will have to know at the end of the day. Is that correct, say, Jeff?
Yeah, and I would hope that we vet through that at the September meeting.
Yes. A meeting with Commonwealth about the sewer. Yeah. See if we can cut some cost off there.
Can I ask Dan, Jeff, in the next 90 days, what are we hoping to accomplish?
Well, we're hoping that at your September meeting, you approve a budget. And then if you approve a budget, the commissioners can authorize Garmong and Elevatus to begin the preparation of construction drawings or construction documents, not to exceed that budget limit. And that allows us to get started. That 60 days is what I'm going to say, 75 days if you're meeting September 8th. That 75 days is critical for Elevatus and our committee to be able to get enough work done that we can get the documents ready to roll out right after New Year's Day. I will tell you, if we miss the January, February bid window, it could cost you easily 3 to 5% in bid prices. So we want to get that window locked in, because what happens is in January, February, contractors buy out their whole schedule of work for the year. So it's a lot cheaper to get that work when they don't have work in January and February than it is to wait till March, April, and May.
Thank you. Well, we're closer than we've been before, over the 8 or 10 years. I want to thank every one of you that's had a part in this. I know it's drug out for some time, but I want to thank you for your faithfulness and commitment to our county. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
And as far as the property is concerned, survey is done for the property on 43. And meeting with, finishing up touches with the surveyor for the, I'm calling it 10 acres for sheriff out there, 9.5, meeting out there with them in 2 weeks to finish up the survey stuff for the quarry project. So that'll be done. Craig, as far as the land transfer is concerned, we talked to the county attorney, talked to Dustin Meeks, the other attorney, and they told us, and you've got the email as well, to proceed. There's nothing holding us back for the land transfer, like I say. So even the survey, the one's already done, the other one will be done here soon. There's nothing stopping us for the land transfer. We're done. You know, RDC's done their commitment, and it's time to move on, sign the dotted lines, and once that survey is done, it'll be done, and we can close out. And I know we're gonna hear about that, but nevertheless, that's what we pay the attorneys for, and they both told us to proceed forward with the land transfer, and that's what we're gonna do. That's my opinion as one commissioner.
Well, I'd like to share, just from a big picture perspective, it seems to me you found a realistic way to get this done. You think about investing in a jail that will be able to expand at a great site for the future of this county, to avoid the lawsuits you would have if you did nothing. One thing, and when you look what you have, you can do this at a cost of over $2.115 million a year to fund a bond at only 4% of change. I think that's a great deal to have that over 20 years with the possibility of paying it off in 17 and saving some of that interest. And when I say they're just an accountant, just listening to that, it's like, boy, you found a way to get this done. I think the county can do it.
Well, and
Work with the town.
I agree, because when you look at the project that they have up there, and I've looked at it 100 different times, it's what the sheriff needs. I mean, anything less causes problems, and we don't need to compound the problem by saying, well, let's do something a little bit less. If what Jeff is presenting and the council, is good with it, and we got a way to pay for it without hanging people, so to speak, that'd be some good decisions. But I think what they've got presented up on the wall right there is going to meet his needs at this time, and we do have the ability to add on if we need to in the future. What do you think, Steve? What's your?
Wonderful. Let's go. Got a shovel in the truck.
Somebody bring it back. Can somebody just set a backhoe out there and make it look good? Put the bucket in the ground or something.
Well, and I do agree that it needs to happen because I know that when we're booked up after March, yeah, our prices go up just because we can't. It's the same for everybody else. Once you're busy, you can charge whatever you want if someone wants to show up. If you're not busy,
Yeah.
you lower your price. And that's every contract, including myself. So if you want
So just to remind everybody, the average amount of construction in Indiana the last 5 years has been $4.5 billion a year. There's $45 billion on the books right now for Indiana in the next 12 months. There are no extra contractors that are worth anything. There's no extra volume. It ain't gonna get cheaper. We wait, it's gonna get harder to get done. I think now's the time.
Yeah, all right.
We're weighted out, that's for sure. We're out of road and out of can, we call it.
I mean, we're done. We don't have no road, no more can left. I mean, we're at the point now, and, I know the commander back there, and I know what he's going through, but, I'm with the council. I think we're in this all together, and
I think we're at a point where we weren't before. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't doable before, where now it is. And we were waiting for a time when we could do this without any imposing on the taxpayers any more than we already have, so.
yeah. I mean, would we like to build a jail for $20 million? Absolutely, we would.
Right.
But we can't. So when next year you ain't talking about it. If this is what it costs, and you've come up with a financial analysis to present to all of us that is a doable thing, and we need to make some decisions here, like yesterday. Doc, Joe? Norm? Yeah.
Roll.
You feel that by the time we have a council meeting, all this situation with the property that we're doing the transfer with will be finalized?
Oh, well, yeah, even if we got dotted, some I and T's a little bit on the survey out here at the quarry, that doesn't stop the transfer of the property.
Okay, so that's a done deal?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 100% confident in the land transfer. I'm not worried about any of that at all.
Okay. I have no other issue.
Norm, you got anything?
No, I mean, we've looked at this every which way that we can. I don't know, I just asked Polly if this met the numbers that we had talked about, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it's been, and it does, without raising taxes. So, I think we're at a point where we've got to move.
David?
Well, if we can get something figured out in September, how we're going to proceed with this and not raise people's taxes, we have to have a jail, so we got to get it done.
No, I agree. I don't think there's going to be. I don't see any delay on the commissioner's part on this. If the council is, it's a hand-in-hand situation. We can say, yeah, this is what we're going to do. The council says, well.
Right, we have to work together.
Yeah, we're going to work together on this, and I think time we come to the meeting with the council. We have a meeting next week. I'm sure commissioners are going to talk about this after everybody leaves here. And we just can't delay anymore.
will you get with Daniel and Anton and make sure they're kind of up to date and give them copies of this stuff so they
Yes,
can
I
operate to them?
most definitely will.
Yeah, that'd be good. That way, come council meeting, they'll be up abreast, and you guys are already here, and I appreciate you coming, I really do, because it's gonna work hand in hand. It has to be, we have to be in all agreement together and get this done, but today's the day. Anybody else? Anybody out there in the public got anything? BW, you guys got anything? You wanna talk about, say anything? You're here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I can offer a few tidbits. My name is James Roberts from BW Construction. And obviously, we're in a similar position as Dan here with Garmong and want to help out the situation. Everything that Dan has said, you know, I would echo a lot of the things initially he talked about with regard to delivery methods. In the spirit of transparency, I know that's been a theme here today. I wanted to illuminate a few things, maybe highlight a few additional things regarding the delivery methods. And
Go up to the
Yeah.
speaker, please.
sure.
Dan likes to beside him, he don't care, he said.
Appreciate this. I'll
Yeah.
make it quick.
That's all right.
Everybody's probably hungry for lunch.
All depends on what you're buying, sir.
So no, I just wanted to reiterate a few things regarding the delivery methods that were discussed this morning. I think we touched on three of them: CMA, CMC, and BOT. With regard to CMA and CMC, that's a procurement process that still also has to take place, just like a BOT would. The difference between the CMA and CMC and a BOT is that you still have to go through a public process to select your bidders, right? And so what that means to me and our team typically is that it's the least amount of flexibility that we have to work with you guys and the local community to figure out who's best to do a job. It also sometimes can stifle a little bit of competition because there are certain things that those contractors have to do to be certified to be able to bid on public works. So if you were to say, hey, I've got this local company that wants to bid on this jail, we don't know if we can guarantee that they can bid on it in those two situations under CMC and CMA. So just wanted to let you know that. We're a little bit more neutral on which method we can do. Totally up to you guys which one you want to do, obviously, but we've done them all. In fact, we worked with Garmong, great company, as we were a CMA and they were a GC underneath us. So we kind of worked both ways with it. I think what's really important to understand is with the BOT, you know, it's kind of a buzzword, right? But the important thing is it's a buzzword because it's the most popular procurement method. It's the fastest growing procurement method right now, and there's a reason for that. It gives you the flexibility. The other thing that it puts all of you on one team, so you can assign the contract for design onto one team, and you've got a single entity that's responsible for the entire budget, the project, the scope of work, everything. So you're not fighting two different hands at the end of the day. The other thing I will say with CMA and CMC is there's really not an incentive for that contractor or that entity to, there's no financial incentive for them, right? Under a CMA agreement, you're not holding any of the contracts. All the contracts are held by the county. So really the risk is placed all back onto the county under a CMA agreement. And so when you go to bid out the project, you're bidding the plans and the specs as they're drawn and hoping that, you know, everything, and to Greg's credit, we work with them a lot, so this is not an issue I have with them, but I'm just saying that, you know, you have to make sure that the drawings are 100% because it opens the door for a situation where the contractors are bidding purely what's on the drawing, and if there's any little detail or something that's not shown, they're going to ask for a change order. So under a BOT, it's a little different. We hold contingencies. It's no different from what was discussed. We can give those back to you as well if they're unused, but it's a little more comprehensive and it incentivizes everybody to work together and work towards that budget. And I can proudly say as a member of BW that of all the BOTs that we've done we've had 0 cost change orders for those projects. So, just want to make sure you guys are all aware of kind of the delivery methods and how we view them, because I think we're flexible, we're willing to do whatever you want. It's just at the end of the day, what works best for you guys, and we're seeing that BOT is a very popular and for the right reasons, I think, delivery method. So,
How new is the BOT? I mean, that's a fairly new method, is it correct? I mean, is that not?
yeah, it is in the
So-
last few years.
Even on this chart where it shows that that's not used as much, it actually is because it's newer.
Yeah, fire
probably,
stations,
right?
police stations, all the other smaller projects, a lot of them are using that. So, and then we did the BOT for Carroll County Jail. We did one for Delaware County. So the 3 that were mentioned here today, we've done 2 of them for jail specifically. And we've done numerous other ones for different types of projects in public safety.
$75 million jail for Henry County. It does get used once in a while.
Yeah. I think the other thing we just want to mention today is we sent over a document that outlined our costs with regard to the Carroll County Jail, which is, I know this is modeled specifically off of that. Similar to how Dan put together his spreadsheet of costs that are escalated, we've kind of done the same thing, right? We may be off a few dollars here and there, but we would agree, like, this project costs more money today than it did in 2023 when we built Carroll County. But we wanted to present you with some clear benchmark, actual benchmarking cost data from a project that's derived from Carroll County that we could expect for this one. So, hope that provides you with a little bit of additional food for thought in your decision making. I'm in no position to make any kind of call for you guys as a group to what kind of a budget you want to put forth to this. But certainly as a taxpayer, I understand you'd want to potentially have some sort of a cushion, right? To not expand the budget to the maximum of what's been discussed. So we're willing to work with you, whatever budget it is that you guys decide, we'll make it work too. So.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir, very
Yep.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So you're gonna get that contract to Tony to look at before
What contract?
he increases it.
Oh, yeah, I'll send it to him today. Yeah, I'll have him look there, think before we move forward. Anybody else got anything? Steve, got any? Norm, Dave, Joe, Paula? You got anything? Anybody out in the public? Sheriff, got anything on that, Commander? Chief? Sheriff Saylor, you got anything? Or- Meetings, well,
You guys had your flash drive up the other day when you gave your presentation. You were supposed to send us that.
Yeah, I believe we sent the presentation, it would have been on Monday or Tuesday. We can resend it. Absolutely.
I just didn't get, yeah, could you resend it?
Absolutely.
hang on one second.
Should have been sent by Greg on Monday, the presentation. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'll make sure you get that. I thought that was.
It's been so crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've got Sheila's email.
Sheila, we have you.
Anybody else got anything? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.